Hello everyone, and welcome back to Marvel Rivals. I wanted to do this because I honestly was not sure how long this was going to last. This is an experimental mode, which I don't think I've heard any announcements as to whether or not it's going to stay around long term. I hope it does. There is a countdown there on the top left that apparently this is only going to go on for another 11 days. I hope they're going to change their mind and keep this around because honestly, I think this should just stick around as like an extra arcade mode just to keep more variety of gameplay in this game as opposed to just the same thing. Like, this is one of the things that Overwatch does have, is that it has a variety of extra modes and things you can do, whether it be in arcade or custom, as opposed to just the same thing. You know, whether it be in quick match or competitive, it's still just the same hero shooter type of game. And I think more variety of ways to play the game is good, is just a good thing. So, they added this, dubbed Ultron's Battle Matrix Protocol. Basically, the lore reason or story for this is that Ultron is basically using like holograms or projections of characters to gain more data about them, basically. So, this is basically an auto chess game mode. And yeah, it says it's going to end on, I guess, the 23rd of June. But again, I really, really hope that they keep this around permanently. I really don't want this to go away. I've been one of those that's actually enjoying it. Now, unfortunately, there's been a lot of mixed reviews. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to do these videos. There's been a lot of mixed reviews about this, but it really kind of depends on who you talk to and whether or not they are into this type of game mode. A lot of people just want to be more active when it comes to actually playing the game, and some just like to take a break from that and just spectate, just watch, you know? Like, at that point, I'm sure some are going to say, like, well, it's not really much of a game, but again, I mean, then we get down to the discussion of, well, is chess a game? Or is auto chess a game where you're basically playing chess, but you're doing some different variations of it, you know? Then we get into that type of discussion. So this is like, you know, the details about how this event works. If you want to get into the higher leaderboards, you get a special emoji, which I have done. And, but yeah, this is where you can see, like, the different, like, the way the gameplay is and what the rules are. I'll go more into this when we actually get into it and try to kind of talk more about it and explain it when we get into that. But it's basically in, like, multi-rounds, and then you get a chance to get some perks. You also get a chance to get certain upgrades for specific characters for your comp. And, yeah, you're able to really, really up the stats and such for your characters on your team, and you can even swap them out if you want. You can see it can go like into really high rounds. So this each game can take like at least half an hour. If you keep playing. If you get knocked out early, or you can always choose to leave. And as far as I can tell, there are no like leaver penalties. So if you end up picking a comp you are not too enthusiastic about, and you can really tell right away it's not going to work out, you can just go ahead and leave if you want. You're not going to get flagged for it or suspended or get timed out. You can just start a new game and try to come up with a better comp if you want. There are tokens, which is basically the currency you use to acquire upgrades and such. You control just a drone, which it says like you can unleash its abilities to influence the battle, but there's only 2 abilities. It does have an attack, but it really doesn't do anything. At first I thought it did. It could like direct your AI controlled characters, because that's important to understand. You're not controlling the heroes in this. You pick them and then they are controlled by the AI, and you just have to you just get to watch, which I understand that's probably part of the reason why a lot of people may have tried this once and then just stopped because they were like, I'm bored. But again, it's going to be like, you know, it depends if you actually enjoy watching like a lot of the crazy stuff that can happen in this mode, because you can see like a lot of like insanity go on during some of these matches, especially in the later rounds. It does let you know that there are targeting logic instructions that are being given to the AI when it comes to like how they target certain enemies. Like most, you know, characters will target just whoever is the nearest enemy. There are some that will prioritize who the lowest health character is, and then there is only one that will target the highest health character, and that of course is Wolverine. Now, when it comes to like the modules, this is basically how this works. So there's going to be modules that focus on 4 specific categories. There's the fortress ones, which are the tank ones, and it shows you that these are the different ones where, as you pick one, it'll be 4%. It can go up to 28% if you keep picking each one. These are the basic ones here that are like these are just the generic ones. Then you can get to some really higher level ones, which can be really important and strong for your build. For tanks, increasing their bonus health per round, how much ultimate energy they have at the start, how much damage they do per health they have lost, and how much they can just keep regenning their health per second. And then you can get into what are dubbed, they're labeled as epic, but they are orange, and so we've kind of just been labeling them as legendary, just because that's kind of how we tend to be. And there's going to be like 3 of these per. So like for tanks, 80% damage reduction for 3 seconds when their health drops below 30% for the first time, or that they revive with 30% health upon the first time they get killed, or that they have a chance to not consume any energy when they use their ultimate, which means they could just use their ultimate again. I've seen it where like someone will ult and then they'll just ult again and again, and just because it keeps resetting. It's pretty crazy. So then we have the ones for DPS, which is like they more increase their damage done, their weapon firing rate, their magazine capacity, their health, reduce the damage they take, all these different things. And then we can get to some really other good stuff here for them, such as, more bonus health. They apply vulnerability, they gain lifesteal, they of course can revive, and they can be able to fully restore health. For healers, this is where it can get really fun and really interesting, especially if you can grab these later on, with one of the more important ones being deadly healing, that any AoE healing you do can cause damage to enemies, and that can really, really make them strong. With some other ones, like doing a double heal effect, that it just triggers again when you do that. They get to a near-death state, and they start taking health instead of damage. Yeah, and then we have equilibrium, which is if you have a balanced composition as opposed to just stacking a certain role. And then it can kind of like cover basically the whole comp as opposed to just a certain role. So, and then there are strengthened ones. This is where these are ones that are specific characters. Like for Captain America, it can increase the attack frequency of his Sentinel Strike and transform into a fully throwable shield ability. Or that his throwable shield will gain deflection and can release without requiring the shield to return. Like, there's a number of ones here that are really, really good and strong for characters. Like Venom, for example. King in Black. Devour, which is his ultimate, permanently grants 10% of damage dealt as maximum health up to 1200 and enlarges the character. So he can grow to Godzilla size, which is just awesome to see. And some of these I haven't fully tested out yet to see how good they actually are. Some are just for some of their abilities, like this one right here for Venom, buffs his shield ability, his E, which reduces the cooldown by 7 seconds, increases the amount of health that he gets, and restores more health upon activation. Whereas some of them are strictly for their ultimates, like for Black Panther, increases the base damage of his ult, but it also has 3 of those avatars go out instead of just 1. Some have permanent stacking buffs, like Black Widow, where her weapon does 10 additional damage per hit. Each final hit permanently increases the damage by 5 up to 260. So by later rounds, if you have this maxed out, she is just able to almost one-shot almost anybody that is low health. Tanks are going to take a few more extra hits, but she can just do an insane amount of damage in the later rounds if you get this early on or are able to have her get the full stacks. Some can also just be really good. There are also some things when it comes to the AI in terms of how they utilize things like the team-ups. I would say sometimes it works, sometimes they just don't work at all. They don't really use them, but it's going to be, of course, because of the amount of programming that goes into these AIs in terms of how they are programmed to utilize some of these things. There's some that I've been intrigued about, like how strong can they actually be, or are they actually not that great? I keep trying to see if Iron Fist's upgrades really makes him strong. Sometimes it seems that way, sometimes it doesn't. Iron Man is really strong, obviously the the whole mode takes place on a condensed square map, so there's not a lot of like big space. So as you can imagine, being able to increase the damage and the range of his ult, he can basically just wipe out an entire enemy team if he's able to get his ult off. So there can be some really, like, some are already being considered really strong. I like some of the names of these, like for Moon Knight, random items go, increase the maximum bounces and reduce the damage decay. So Moon Knight can be really strong here. You can get a monstrous spawn army for Namor, and yes, the team up with Hulk works here, so you can also get the Gamma monstrous spawn as well. From what I can tell, Spider-Man is not really good in this at all. But there are some other ones that can actually be really good, that really can make certain characters that in the regular game may not be that strong, that actually make them really good, such as Adam Warlock. Being able to revive in this mode is actually extremely good. Just because giving yourself, once your team is wiped out, you lose the round. But then you can have Adam Warlock or even Rocket with his beacon be able to revive them, and all of a sudden your team is able to come back. And if you get both of these, where he can be able to increase the health they have, plus how long they're invincible, and massively increase the amount of damage they do when they do get revived, that can be a game changer for you. But you also could run into games where he may not even be able to get his ultimate cast off. So it's always going to depend on like the rest of the comp, how you have them complemented, and of course what the opposing composition you're facing is. Sometimes you may have a comp that is extremely bursty. Sometimes you may have one that has some good crowd control, or just incredibly sustainable. It's always going to depend. It's fun looking. The part of the fun for me when it comes to this mode, and why I'm one of those who actually enjoys this mode, is I like, and this is also going to apply if I ever get around to doing a video about Stadium and Overwatch. The thing I like about these modes, this mode and Stadium and Overwatch, it allows us to do multiple things. It allows us to do something different from the norm, as opposed to we're just playing the characters in a hero shooter. Okay, we're just playing the hero shooter. But what this allows us to do is try out different things every time we play. We get to try out different modules. We get to try out different compositions. We get to try and see, like, does this 2-2-2 comp work? Does this 1-1-4 comp work? Does this 2-1-3 comp work? Or trying out 6 of the same one and just only picking the modules that are in a specific role. Like, there's a lot of things to try out here every time you play this, and I feel like a lot of people are not really getting that and not giving it a shot, which is one of the reasons I felt compelled to go ahead and make videos about this before it might possibly go away. But again, I am hoping there are those like myself who are asking NetEase, please keep this mode around. It doesn't have to be one of the main modes, but I just don't see why this can't stick around. So in case you were wondering, here's the leaderboard, and in case you are wondering where I am, well, hold on, let me see here. I think is there a thing? Yeah. So I'm not in the top 500, but I have been able to get to 2339. But again, sometimes I'm not necessarily trying to climb. I'm just simply messing around with this, trying different combinations, So let me go ahead and show you. As you can see, I've been playing this mode a lot, in case you can't tell. Sometimes they're just this was early on when I was just trying to learn how it works. And then I started trying to look into other stuff, trying to figure it out. So, for example, this one right here, this was the first time I won. This was an all-6 tank comp I did here. So, this one I had Magneto, I had Thor, Penny, Doctor Strange Thing, and Captain America. Not necessarily my favorites. And I actually ended up going with heavy into, of course, the tank modules. But I also decided to do Equilibrium. But that's because at the time, I wasn't really quite sure how this worked. Partly because, to me, the wording for this is a little confusing. When it says for each unique role, I wasn't really sure if that meant, okay, so if I have at least one of each role, do I get more out of this? Or if I have more of a specific role, do I get more out of this? I think later on I realized, oh wait, this is for if I have 2-2-2. But hey, I still won even though I had these, so that, that was a part of the learning experience for me early on, honestly. So then later on, I was trying some other ones here. This was a comp I was thinking about it, because I started to understand how important res was in this composition, in this mode. I started thinking, what about a full-on res comp, you know? Such as we have Adam Warlock, Star-Lord, and Mantis, along with Rocket, and of course, because he has the team up with Penny, we also get Penny as well, and maybe Groot, just to put up the walls to help protect the team, possibly. I wasn't entirely sure how that would work. I think you could swap Groot for a different tank, but this was kind of the main idea I was going for, and it actually ended up working out pretty well. As you can see, there are some other, certain upgrades for certain characters that I was like, okay, maybe this can really help out with that. Like, you can be able to have it where his beacon is drastically reduced with its cooldown, so he can use it more often, and they can also revive themselves. Plus, you can also have Penny have up to 3 nests with much more drones, which, when we know how the team up with Penny and Rocket works, that's a lot of webs, and that is a lot of nests. Not to mention, if the enemy is in the webs, they can be ensnared for a couple seconds. So this was something I was definitely I wanted to see if it worked, and it actually ended up working out pretty well. This was another one I decided to try out, another 6-tank comp, and it ended up working out pretty well. Basically, a lot of people have been saying that 6 tanks is one of the meta ways to go about this mode. This time I just went heavily only into the Fortress modules, and it ended up working out well. So I've won a couple times with all tanks, and I've won a couple times with the others. And this was... No, not that one. I want to show you guys the one that I pulled off where it was just DPS. I'm trying to see where that one is. Is it this one? Yes. So I actually have won a game just with DPS, 6 DPS. I wasn't enthusiastic about this particular composition, but I decided to give it a try because they were the only 6 that were available for me to choose, and I'll explain that when I get into a game and show you how it decides to... Here are the 6 you get to choose from on the roster, amongst the 3 different roles. So my comp was Panther, Magic, Squirrel Girl, Spider-Man, Bucky, and Star-Lord, and I didn't even give Bucky the stacking buff that he gets in this based on match victories. But we actually ended up winning, which was kind of nuts. I was able to actually pull that off. I couldn't believe I actually won that one. And I think this was the other 6-tank comp. Sometimes it's a little hard to keep track of each of these. All right, so let me see here. All right, this was another comp I had an idea about, which was I did the Rocket Penny team up. I also did the Hulk and Namor team up. And then I decided, okay, how about we do Black Widow and Mantis? Because what I was thinking of was, what if we had Black Widow with her stacking buff, and then I have Mantis, if the AI works that way, then give a damage buff to Black Widow, I thought, holy moly, that could be amazing, especially with her stacking buff, where she is able to get maxed out, which, as you can see, she was able to do that with the Namor monster spawns, and yeah, it actually ended up working out pretty well. So... And then recently I won again. This time I was able to pull this off. I wasn't sure if this was possible, but people were talking about how, 6 healers is probably not a good way to actually win this. Believe it or not, I actually did end up winning an entire game as 6 healers. I had Adam, Mantis, Invisible Woman, Jeff, Loki, and Cloak and Dagger. Basically, one of the ways you can do this, and I went heavily into that, and by the way, one of the reasons why I was able to get that much is because of Jeff and his Looting Leviathan, where if he swallows at least 3 enemies, he gives you a free module. And it can sometimes be common, sometimes it can be a very epic one, So he got me an epic one, so that's how. But one of the keys, the most important keys to winning with a 6 strategist comp in this mode is if you get what I talked about, the module called Deadly Healing, where when you do AoE healing, you also do damage to enemies around you. Which with this comp, that's Invisible Woman with her ult, Mantis with her ult, Loki with his lamps, Cloak and Dagger with her ult. Like, you think about the amount of AoE healing that this comp has, that's then all of a sudden lots of damage, not to mention lots of healing. So yeah, if you ever want to try a 6 strategist comp, try to see if you can get this comp together and really try and get some of those specific modules I talked about that not only give them lots of extra bonus health from their healing, which overflows into their health bar as extra bonus health, but also the amount of damage they do from AoE healing. So yeah, that's those are some of the times I've won. And when you get, if you're making to the top 3, it considers it a victory, and you gain points for the leaderboard, you know. But that's like the main thing I want to kind of go over with this mode is like, I think this is a really fun mode. I've really been enjoying it, and I really think people need to give it another shot before it goes away. And I really hope that if it gets more overwhelming or more positive praise, that NetEase will consider keeping this around. I really want this to stick around. So when we come back, I'm just telling you guys about like how the rules are and such. When we come back, I'm going to try and show you different videos of different compositions that you can try in this. I'm going to try and see if I can do a 6 tank vid, a 6 DPS vid, a 6 strategist vid, and of course a balance vid. So stick around to see more of this mode and stay tuned.